Well, good to see everybody. All right, so y'all look like you're in your spots. Again, indoors or outdoors is just fine. And for today, you will want to have, actually, with this particular exercise, you could be inside. It wouldn't matter as much if you had window or not, but if you want to play with the outdoor environment and make sure you can see, out a window, but the indoor environment is just as good for this exercise. Sometimes even better because if it's a place you go to all the time, and there's some sort of, I think it's just a lawnmower right now. Is Zoom cutting it out, or can you guys hear that? The lawnmower in the background. It's okay. Okay, good. Love Zoom for that feature sometimes. He's quite loud. I was hoping he would stop mowing soon. Um, okay, perfect. Well, let's all get and I look. Hi, Joy. Oh, she's still. Let me wait for her for a second. Joy did not connect. Okay. Hi, Joy. I see that you're there, and it seems like you might be having some trouble connecting. So hopefully it'll keep working out for you to connect with us. And if not, there's always a recording as well. But it's so nice to have you here in person. Okay, so everyone, let yourself just get settled into your spot. And let's just feel our breath to start with. You can either tap into the physical sensation of your breath coming in and out of your body, or just noticing its rhythm. Noticing how shallow or how deep it is today. And then seeing if you'd like to shift anything with your breath, if you'd like to take a deeper breath, or if you're just content with the way your breath is in this moment. And then without losing attention on your breath, notice how your posture is. Noticing where your shoulders are, how your spine is situated in relation to your sits bones, as they call it, basically your butt, that area. And then also to the crown of your head. And then once you've noticed it, if you want to shift anything about your posture, you can do so. I know mine sometimes starts a little hunched over, especially when I'm trying to look at the screen at you all. So it's nice to readjust that. Nice work. And so just feeling your feet on the ground beneath you and remembering that connection that your feet have to the earth, even if she's very far away from your physical feet at this moment. And then shifting your awareness to your skin and becoming aware of the clothing that's touching your skin, if anything's hugging a little tight, or if things are just falling nicely and softly onto your skin. What is that experience like in your body or on your body? And then even if you're inside, see if you can pick up on the sensation of the air moving across your skin. If you're outside, it's usually a little bit easier if you have a little bit of a breeze. And see where you pick it up first. What part of your body perceives the air moving? Noticing what direction it's coming from. And if there's any particular scent on the air this morning or this evening. work. Now shifting your attention to your ears and just allowing all the sounds in this moment into your awareness without necessarily picking any one out. And then today we'll start with the sound that's as far away as you can hear. So really stretch your ears and just become aware of what is the furthest sound that you can hear right now. And if there is a prominent or a loud sound on your landscape, can you hear beyond that? Can you listen beyond that sound? And then now shift your attention to a sound from nature, something that maybe it's a bird, maybe it's a mammal, maybe it's an insect. Just let yourself listen to and really explore that sound for the next few moments. Wonderful. So if your eyes are closed right now, you can gently open them and just allow them to fall into owl eyes. So that really softened vision. And you can do so by looking at a point off in the distance and then letting all of the rest of your vision just get really soft to the point where it gets almost blurry. And so I want you to stay in owl eyes for the next couple minutes while I tell you a couple stories that will lead us into our practice this morning. So I thought about doing this with you all after spending some time at the shore with a friend birding yesterday, and she was telling me about how she noticed a bird recently because it stood out on the landscape in a funny way. Like it was just a shape that was in the tree that didn't seem like it, not that it didn't belong, but it just stood out to her, you know? And that's a really good skill to have, is being able to pick out those items in the landscape that stand out for one reason or another. That's often how I see birds as well. And I was thinking also to different people who have this skill. And years ago, I got to spend some time with the Bushmen in Namibia. And I remember we were out with them for a day, and we'd only gotten to know them for maybe a couple days. And we spent some time out with them. And on the way back, one of the Bushmen motioned to I had a boyfriend at the time, and motioned to his head. And he was pointing to his head, and he was like shaking his head. Um, and my boyfriend didn't really know what he was talking about, but we had a translator with us, and the translator said, "Oh, your hat, you don't have your hat." And it was a hat that we had gone out with, and he didn't have it at this moment. And I forget where it was, like maybe in his backpack or somewhere, but the Bushman knew exactly what he was wearing, what my boyfriend was wearing, and very attuned to the fact that he didn't have his hat on anymore. Now that might seem kind of obvious, you know, sure, he's not wearing the hat. The hat's a little bit easy to recognize, but how many of us would really know that, would really be that attentive? And then it got me thinking about another story that I had a chance to work with a Lakota elder named Gilbert Walking Bull years ago. And Gilbert told us how the old women in his tribe used to be able just to look, this is his story, so he gave it the version this way. He said, they could look at a man's foot and be able to make a shoe for him just by looking at his foot. They wouldn't have to take any measurements. They could just look at his foot and know every detail about it and be able to make a shoe that fit perfectly to that man's specific foot. And the last story I'll share with you is one, because what I don't want you to think that these skills are skills that just, Bushmen in Africa or, ancient ancestors of ours and other peoples have these skills of awareness. But there is a friend of mine that I knew years ago. His name is Matt, and he was trained with the Wilderness Awareness School with John Young, and kind of back in the day, and when he was young, and he was visiting New York City at one point, and he happened to be witness. I don't know if he actually saw a crime happen, but he happened to see this man who had committed a crime. Somehow someone figured that out. He ended up having to present this information during a trial, and they accepted his testimony because he did such a meticulous job of describing this man's shoes and the exact outfit the man was wearing. It was like he had a photographic memory, like down to the T. And it wasn't that Matt necessarily had a photographic memory. It's just he had trained himself to care about these things, to really care about what was happening, what happens, what was going on in his environment, and what everything looked like. And so I believe that we can do that too. We just have to make it matter. We have to care about what's around us. So what I want you to do right now is close your eyes if you feel like you're in a safe and comfortable place. And we're going to play a game. This is going to be a fun game, I think. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to imagine the landscape or the room, whatever it is, immediately to your right of you right now. So really just imagine whether it's a wall or a forest, it doesn't matter, whatever's to your right, like a 90 degrees to your right. I want you to really imagine it and paint it in your mind right now. So we'll take the next couple moments and just really allow ourselves to remember what are all the bits and pieces that are over to our right now? What position are they in? What colors are they? What textures are they? Where are they in relation to other elements? And don't peek just yet. I'll let you know when you can open your eyes. And you want to really do your best to draw this in your mind as if it mattered, like you're going to have to tell someone exactly what this looked like later on. And it's really going to make a difference the way you describe it and how you paint it. Trying to be as precise as possible. Okay, good work. So you can open your eyes and just gently, slowly, you can look over to your right and just notice. What were you missing? What did you get? What was accurate about your observation? Noticing what you might be surprised about. And again, if it's okay if it doesn't have to be the natural world, it could be your house. If your house is immediately to your right, did you get the position of the windows in relation to the doors? Did you get the roof line, all of that. Just really notice all the details. Good work. Okay, so when you're ready, close your eyes again. And now what I want you to do is I want you to do the same thing, but with everything over to your left. So really just let yourself go deep with this. You can go deep in the sense of like, emotionally deep, but also deep in the sense of physically, like let yourself go deeper into the landscape or into the room this time. And just notice the parts of the environment to your left that you either maybe keep skipping or brushing over, and the parts that you might really just be letting yourself go deeper with and explore. Okay, good job. So you can open your eyes now and take a good look. So just explore the landscape over to your left. Noticing how far things are away from each other, how close they are, the colors and shapes. Okay, do this a couple more times. So close your eyes now when you're ready. And this time, I'd like you to imagine the environment in front of you. So whatever it is that's in front of your gaze, or would be in front of your gaze if your eyes were open, really exploring that area right now. Even if you really think you know it well, sometimes it's easy to skip over those parts because, like, oh, I know what that is. I know that this pot is next to that pot, but how close are they really? How tall are they in relation to one another? Okay, everyone, you can open your eyes now. I don't know when I muted myself. Have I? You guys can shake your head. Did I let you open your eyes yet to look in front of you? I did. Okay, good. No, I didn't yet. Okay. I must have forgotten to take myself off of mute. So go ahead and open your eyes and look in front of you and notice how you did. Okay, and so for our final one, go ahead and close your eyes. And we'll let ourselves now begin to paint the landscape or the homescape behind you. So immediately behind you. How well do you know that area? Okay, when you're ready, you can open your eyes gently and take a peek behind you and see how you did. This is always a good test, a good game. Okay, well, so take a moment to offer some gratitude to those ones that you interacted with today. And even the ones that you'd like to get to know that maybe you didn't realize were part of your landscape or part of your home. All right, so folks can come off of, well, come off of mute if you want to share anything. If anyone does, you can just wave your hand. And if anyone needs to go, it's so nice to be here with you today. You're welcome to head out whenever you need to. But yeah, if someone wants to share, you can just raise your hand. Would love to hear what that experience was like for you. Claudia, go for it. I see a big smile on your face.
Okay, yeah, I found that the things that I could visualize the best were the things that I do care about and interact with a lot. So we started off with, when I looked to my right, it was part of my garden. And because I'm always tending to it, I pretty much knew exactly what was there.
Yeah.
And any area in my yard where I am that I interacted with a lot, I could pretty well describe. But it was interesting because to my left is the side of my home, and I got quite a bit of it, but there's a faucet on the side of the house that I haven't used for a long time. And I totally left that out. It was just, I thought it was just brick. But anyway, so I realized that if you care about something and you're interacting with it, then you're going to notice.
Yeah. 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 And it takes effort to notice the things that we don't like care about or care to, tend to. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome, Claudia. Thanks. Yeah. Let's want to share. What was that like? What did you notice for yourself? What did you pick up on? What was harder for you to remember? Yeah. Linda, go for it. Linda with the shades today.
Yeah, it's really sunny. So, uh, so anyway, what was really interesting to me was that as I visualized, no matter where I looked, as I visualized, there were so many birds in the yard today. There still are. I don't know why. Some days there's a lot of them, and today was one of those days. It's just a beautiful day. It's not so hot. So maybe that's why. I don't know. But so I had a really hard time focusing on like the various parts of what I was looking at, because I could tell there was a bird in there, like the bushes. I have a lilac bush and a forsythia bush on the right. And as I'm visualizing them, I could hear a bird in there. And so I really and then I heard it was a robin. So it was really fun to open my eyes, and I did see the robin. He was in there. So, and then that happened again. I have this big grandfather tree in our front yard. It's a ponderosa pine that's over 300 years old, and I just love it. And so looking in front of me, that's what I focused on. And I realized I didn't exactly know much of what it was around it, because I was thinking about it, but then I heard this red-breasted nut. Well, I thought it was this the chirping for, and I opened my eyes and there he was right in front of me on the grandfather tree. So it really got to be kind of a I don't know, I felt like I was playing Clue or something, just these birds were leaving these little clues, and then I heard the sounds of the bluebirds, and I never did find it. I heard them over on the left, and there were several of them, and I didn't see them when I opened my eyes, but it kind of distracted me, the sounds of the birds. And so I guess I was focusing on what really mattered to me was the birds. But it was really interesting how much I wasn't able to fill in. I was really so focused on the birds, and we've got blue jays here too. But then when I was focusing on the back, I've got the windows that lead to the living area in my home behind me, and I kept thinking of all the stuff that I need to clean up. So, and I turned around, and I looked, and I was right. So anyway, I knew right what was there and where it was and why it didn't belong there. But anyway, so it was really pretty fun to do. It made me realize how much I miss when I focus. But sometimes it seems like your mind just goes to, well, like maybe it's what you care about or what matters to you, and then the rest kind of gets shoved aside. I don't know. Maybe I don't have enough disk space in my brain for everything. I don't know.
It could be, yeah. And another thing to think about is like, when you were focusing on the sound of the robin, for instance, and you may not have tried this, so don't worry if you didn't, but if you did you try to make a guess of like where it was in the tree based on the sound? Like, was it in the lilac or the forsythia, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I wasn't sure with the robin. I didn't try and make a guess. I knew it was over. I knew the bird was over there. I wasn't sure that it was even the robin that was in the bush. I heard the robin because there's a tree, a mountain ash tree that's just beyond that. And so I wasn't exactly sure. So I guess that I need to kind of pay a little bit more attention.
Well, it's just a fun thing that you can do. So if you want to try this activity again, I think it's a great one to do. Again, if you're like, I don't know, let's say you're watching like a grandkid's soccer game or something and you're getting a little bored, you can just sort of play this game with yourself of like, was I really paying attention when I walked in? Do I know what's to my right? Do I know what's to my left? And if you start hearing sounds, you know, and you can kind of be like, oh, it's probably a robin. Like, where is it? Like, where do I think it is? Would it be like deep in the tree? Would it be, you know, just try to like
Uh,
really imagine,
yeah.
like get to know the robin and then think about where you would, where it might actually be. And so it's just other layers of this sort of game that you can play with yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. And that would really help with finding birds too, if you could, you know, focus and pay attention to those details, you know. I'm
Yeah.
looking all over the place for birds, and you know, if I paid more attention to those kind of details, I might be able to locate it better.
You
So
got it. That's the point of today's lesson.
oh, good. I'm glad I
10
got
points for Linda.
it.
That's awesome.
Oh,
All right.
well,
Anyone else
thank
have
you.
a story they want to share? Yeah, sure. Thanks for your stories, Linda. Any other experiences from this morning? Practicing how well you knew your spot? How about you, Anat? You were inside. What was that like to explore
Yeah,
your inner
thanks.
world there?
It's just that I just realized for I don't know how many times now how much junk I have on my right and my left that I have to clear up. But it was a lovely, really lovely exercise. It was really beautiful. And thank you for this and all the stories that I hear, you know, and I think about Linda when you said about how birds distracted you. And I think that for me, they don't distract me. They make this is the essence of life for me. I mean, when I sit in a coffee place with friends and I always listen to birds more than to my friends, I feel that I'm so much more connected and so much more with it, you know. And so it's for me, it's not a distraction, but I can understand what you're saying. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, Anat. Thanks. Yeah, go for it, Julia.
Well, on my left is some sliding glass doors, 3 big panels of glass.
Yeah.
And so I was imagining I could look, well, that there, and then I could see inside my house, into the room, and that I could see through the window shades to the garden past that. Okay.
Cool.
Turns out when I looked, what I saw was the reflection of what's in front of me.
Whoa.
And I don't know what the message is, but I find that really interesting. I had never noticed that before.
Wow. That is deep. I love that. It's funny because when I was sort of preparing for this, I thought I didn't really want to like categorize it as like that this is a deeper practice or this is like a more, you know, structural or technical practice. Because I was like, who knows? Like when we do some of the more technical, like skills-based things, like you can have a deep experience, you know, there's no limit to like when these deep experiences can happen to us. So I opted not to say anything. And that sounds like, yeah, there might be a message in there for you. That's cool. Yeah, go for it.
Also, I have a big oak tree, and a friend one time commented, looking at the bark, she said, "There's such wisdom in this bark." And I've always remembered that, you know, because, you know, looking at tree bark differently. And straight ahead of me, I was not correct in exactly the angle that I was seeing, and I was describing in my mind something offset to the right. But straight in front of me is a pine tree, tall pine tree. And I've become acquainted with pine bark this summer, particularly because I did that week on trees, and so looking at qualities of bark. And so I've never really seen that pine tree trunk, or that looked at the bark of it that way. And here it is right straight in front of me here. So it says, look, I have wisdom to share, or something like that. I don't know.
Absolutely.
But it's going to be a part of my yard that I'm going to see differently now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, we can take this again, for me it's a fun game to play at different times and especially with those ones that we think we know really well, right? Like that one tree that we see all the time. Like so you can then go deeper with that if you want to. Not, I mean, you're describing it already, but for other people, you know, you can look at that tree you see all the time or the whatever it is you see all the time and then be like, all right, like, how well do I know the bark? Do I know where it turns and where it meets with this part, or where it spreads out, or where there might have been a woodpecker hole? And, you know, you can get really, really, really deep into that. Yeah. Right on. Let's see. Claudia says, distractions I had to try to ignore were the judgments, for example. Yeah, thinking about the weeds that are in my garden and need to be pulled. I can be aware of the weeds without criticizing myself that they're there. Yeah, right on. Absolutely, Claudia. It's totally true. I know a lot of you were talking about like the messes you have to clean up, right? Or the things we have to do. And it's good awareness. It really is. It's good to be like, oh, do I really need those things in my life anymore? You know, like when we start to look more intimately at these parts, you know, that's a good question to be asking. But I like how you brought up the non-judgmental piece, Claudia, you know? Yeah. Because it sounds like all of us have some version of that, you know, whether it's the judgment or the stuff, you know, the extra stuff. Yeah. Rad. Anyone else? Yoke. Well, thanks everybody for playing today. And yeah, take this and keep playing with it, because I mean, even for myself, when I was to the right of me is my house, and I was trying to remember, 'cause I didn't build this house, I'm renting it, so I have a connection to the house, of course, but it's not like, maybe it would be different if it was something I built, or maybe I had some part of. But still, I think I can still ask myself to know it in a really rich way. And so I was trying to remember, like, I know there's 3 windows over here, and like, are they in line with the door frame, or are they below the door frame? And this fence back here, does it line up with the door frame, or is it below it? And is the door in line with that window? Like, I just couldn't remember. And I'm like, yeah, I look at this wall pretty much every day when I come in and out, but I don't really look at it, you know? It's that too, that idea of like, how like intimately do we really connect with the things in our lives, or how much do we often just move, you know, without too much intention, without too much really looking at the ones that are around us, you know, whether it's the people in our lives, or the, you know, or the homes and the chairs and the trees and all of that. So yeah, it's just fun to or it's, I think, important to consider that. So I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your week, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. Della, hopefully you won't have to be too bundled up for too long. Though it looks like a nice jacket. Yeah, awesome. Great. Well, let's see. I actually have to, Della, I wondered if you had a couple minutes. I wanted to ask you about something before we left. So if you could stay on, and Anat, it's so good to see you. It's always nice to have you with us. So everybody, thank you so much.
Thank you
We'll see
so
you next
much.
time. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Much love, everybody.
Mhm.
Bye-bye. Della, I was wondering if for the master session this week, if you, I have a thing I'm going to share with everybody, but I was also wondering if you would, hang on one quick second. Let me just, 1 minute, do this, and that. One more second.